In video 2 for Unit 1, we will continue our discussion on measurements in chemistry. We are actually going to move into taking a look at prefixes and equalities in the metric system. So we've already talked about in the metric system that we have units of measurement that are going to measure mass, volume, temperature, right? And for those measurements, we are using these basic units, right? We see here that for the meter, it is the lowercase letter m, which is abbreviated for meter. Capital letter L is abbreviated for liter. Lowercase g is abbreviated for gram, and lowercase s is abbreviated for second. These are all what I'm going to call the base units. We're going to use prefixes to help us move or to clearly define smaller and larger units than those base units, right? So we can express a numerical value, a whole number numerical value based on the power of 10 with a prefix. So what do I mean by that? For example, we have the little word kilo in the big word kilometer. Well, kilo equals 1,000 or 10 to the 3. So when I say kilometer or kilometer, that means I have 1,000 meters or 10 to the 3 meters. So these prefixes for metric units are all based on a power of 10, right? And notice how this number or this word kilometer, kiloliter, kilogram all has the same numerical value. What changes these values to let us know what kind of measurement we're looking at? It is the base unit. So meters is going to be measuring what type of, if I have 1,000 meters or a kilometer, that means I am measuring what? Is it mass? Is it length? Or is it distance? I'm sorry, length, or is it, let's say, a volume? Correct. It is distance or length when we're talking about a kilometer. When I'm talking about a kiloliter, that means that I have 1,000 liters. Am I talking about a volume, a length, or a mass? Correct. I'm talking about a volume. Again, these links are clickable on your copy of this presentation in Top Hat. So let's take a closer look at these symbols. Please commit these symbols to your memory. You will need to know the conversions or the definitions of these symbols that are highlighted in blue, because we will use them very often throughout the semester. So commit these to memory. These you can put on flashcards to help you remember. And don't forget, when you're using flashcards, make sure you say the definitions or the meanings out loud so that you can remember them. So kilo, what does that mean? Kilo has the symbol of a lowercase k, and it equals 1,000 or 10 to the 3. Excuse me. So if I have 1 kilogram, that means I have 10 to the 3 grams, or I have 1,000 grams. Centi is a small number. It is less than 10. How do we know that it's less than 10? Because it is represented by a decimal place, 0.001, or 10 to the minus 2. So 0.01 is equal to 10 to the minus 2. Okay, so make sure you commit these to memory. In the next few slides, we're going to take a look at doing conversions between different metric units. Okay, so when you look at this table, these are our base units. Well, well, sorry, our base units are going to be meter, gram, liter, right? And we're going to multiply. This is our multiplier. So that if I have one, let's say, kilogram, that means I have 1 times 1,000 grams, 1,000 grams to give me 1 kilogram. Okay, let's do a little bit of practice where we are doing metric conversions. Before we begin with these conversions, you need to remember a few things. So remember, 1,000 is equal to 10 to the 3. 100 is equal to 10 to the 2. 1/100th is equal to 10 to the minus 2. And 1/1000th is equal to 10 to the minus 3. So if you have not committed these powers of 10 to your memory, in addition to memorizing the names of these numerical values, please review how to get from a power of 10 to its fraction. So our first question is saying, do the following metric conversions. Letter A, convert 8.274 centigrams to milligrams. Wow. Both of these have a metric unit or a prefix attached to them. So we have centigrams and we need to get to milligrams. So in order to do these conversions, you can do a multiple steps or one step. We have to get from our prefixed unit, which is centigram. We've got that little C in front to let us know that it's a prefix. Then we get to the non-prefixed unit, which is grams. And then we will go to the next prefixed unit. Now, remember, the gram is the base unit, same as the liter is the base unit. The meter is a base unit, and it has no prefix in it. So what if I wanted to go from centigrams to milligrams? Centigrams is a smaller unit, is a small unit going to an even smaller unit. So what if I wanted to go from this direction to the next? Well, 1 gram is equal to 100 centigrams, and 1,000 milligrams is equal to 1 gram. I've written it this way particularly because when we are doing these conversion units, we want to write our conversions in a way that will cancel out the unwanted units and leave us with the units that we want. So if I was to multiply 1 centigram times 1 gram over 100 centigrams, I would cancel out the centigrams, and you'll see what I mean shortly. What if now I wanted to go in the reverse? There are 100 centigrams in 1 gram, and there's 1 gram in 1,000 milligrams. It's the same units. The only thing that we did was switch the meanings. We switched them around, right? And so you may be wondering, why did I write 100 centigrams instead of writing 0.10 grams? Well, it's the same thing. So let us take a look at our conversions. And on the next slide, we'll go through that so you can see that a little bit, see it a little bit more clearly. So if I start with, you always are going to start with what you're given. If I start with 8.274 centigrams, and I use this unit that is going from centigrams to grams, I'm going to write it with 1 gram on top, 100 centigrams on the bottom. When I do that calculation, the centigrams will cancel, and it gives me 1 gram. The next step would be to add the next conversion, which is 1,000 milligrams over 1 gram. And we pull that from here. Well, the reason why that I wrote it in this way is because the grams will cancel out, leaving us with milligrams. When you put this in the calculator, you want to start with what you're given and multiply all the way across the top and divide all the way across the bottom. What do I mean by that? you would put in your calculator 8.274 times 1,000 divided by 100, all in one step. Don't do this step, get the answer, and then do this next step. That can lead to rounding errors. So we end up with 82.74 milligrams. Let's show. So I notice here that centigrams are canceling out and my grams are canceling out. That leaves me with milligrams. So that would be our final answer. Now, I know that that's quite a few steps. And how can we minimize some of these steps when doing these types of metric conversions? So you can determine the relationship between prefixed units by creating a number line. Now, this could be a mental number line. It could be something that you draw. And once you get used to converting between units, it will become more like second nature to you. Now, on this number line, I've started with 10 to the positive 1, and I've gone down to 10 to the minus 6. And I've labeled here the prefix themselves. So we were starting with centigrams, and we wanted to get milligrams. So this little c represents centi, this little m represents milli. Yes, small m represents milli, and it also represents, let's say, if you're saying the mass is equal to. So get used to some of these, let's say these abbreviations, right? So if I wanted to go in the forward direction, let's say I wanted to go from milli to centi. Well, notice here that going from milli to centi, there is one hop on our number line. So what does that mean? If I'm going from 10 to the minus 3 to 10 to the minus 2, then that means I've moved one unit to the right. And because I'm going to the right, the numbers are getting larger. So that would represent 10 to the plus 1. What if now I wanted to go in the reverse direction? Well, notice that is one hop to the left. And because I'm going from a larger unit to a smaller unit, that is going to be 10 to the minus 1. So what does that mean? How many centigrams are there in 1 milligram? So I'm essentially going from centi to milli, right? I'm going in reverse. That would equal to 10 to the minus centigrams. So 1 milligram will be equal to 10 to the minus 1 centigram. We can also write this 10 to the minus 1 centigram in a decimal format. So notice that if I have a negative superscript, right, I can write that in a decimal form, and there's a 1, a minus 1 here, then that means that there is 1 decimal place that is equal to 0.1 centigrams. We can write that as 1 milligram over 0.1 centigram, or 1 milligram over 10 to the minus 1 centigrams. Now keep in mind that every equality can be written as a fraction, and that fraction can be used as our conversion unit. Also keep in mind that we can write this in any direction that will help us to cancel out the units that we don't need. So let's take a look at the opposite. How many milligrams are there in 1 centigram? Well, we're looking at this version here, going from milli to centi. Notice we did 1 hop forward, so that is 10 to the positive 1. So 1 centigram is equal to 10 to the plus 1 milligrams, or we can write that as 10 milligrams. Now, what's important to note is that although I didn't write, here, I didn't write 1 centigram or, that doesn't matter. Whenever you see a power of 10 by itself, always assume that it is meaning 1 times that power of 10. Notice that since we have a positive subscript, that means that we have no decimal places. So 10 to the plus 1 is going to be equal to 10. 10 to the 0 is equal to 1. So this number 1 represents the number of zeros in our value. So if we had 10 to the plus 2, that answer is 100. Notice that there are 2 zeros in the number 100. So looking here again, we can write our equality in a conversion unit where we have 1 centigram divided by 10 milligrams, or we can write it as 1 centigram divided by 1 times 10 to the milligram, 1 times 10 to the 1 milligrams. This 10 is equal to 10 to the 1. So now let's go back to our problem. How many milligrams are there in 8.274 centigrams? So we did all of this so that we can skip out on doing so many steps of going from one prefix unit to the next prefix unit. Here, we're always going to start with what we were given. We were given 8.274 centigrams, and we're going to use a conversion factor. Which one of these conversions are we going to use to solve this problem? You tell me. I'm going to use 10 milligrams per 1 centigram. And why am I doing that? I'm going to use, I just happen to like using positive numbers. So it really doesn't matter which one of these you're going to use. I'm writing it in the positive. I just like multiplying positive values. So writing it in this way, notice that I put the 10 milligrams on top and the 1 centigram on the bottom. All of these equal the same thing. It just matters which direction you are writing the conversion unit. Alternately, we can write it in this way, that 8.274 centigrams times 1 milligram over 0.1 centigrams, right? All of these equal the same thing. They're all equal to each other, and these are all the identical conversion units, just written in a different form. Notice that everything is written, however, so that I can cancel centigrams on the bottom, and I'm left with milligrams on the top. So what do we get? 82.74 milligrams.